You introduce me? What will we do?
Sir will introduce.
Okay.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, participants, and faculty. I'm pleased to welcome all of you who have joined us from all across for this enhanced teaching learning experience of International Faculty Development Program on Literature, Society, and Thoughts and Efforts Towards Sustainable Development, organized by the Department of Languages, Integral University, under the aegis of Human Resource Development Center, Integral University. In vain have you acquired knowledge if you have not imparted it to others. Our session today judiciously serves the aforementioned purpose of knowledge, as we have two eminent speakers joining us to help build a more sustained nature knowledge culture. Our first speaker is an experienced professor with a passion for research and teaching, Professor Vishal Gupta of the University of Alabama, USA. Sir has published over 50 peer-reviewed journal articles, including in the prestigious Academy of Management Review, Journal of Applied Psychology, and Journal of Management, among others. He teaches courses in strategic management and entrepreneurship at various levels from undergraduate to PhD. He has a global teaching experience, which includes United States, India, and Belgium. He is also a noted professional speaker for students, business executives, and small business owners. We are grateful for your presence in today's session, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Vani. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So, thank you everyone for taking the time to join us for today's seminar. Dr. Vani asked me to speak to you for a few minutes about sustainability and about the research and the practice of sustainability as I see it around the world. I am told that we have people from many different countries on this call, and I am very pleased to have this opportunity to talk to you. As you know, sustainability, corporate social responsibility uh, are buzzwords these days. Many of you may also know that India, where Dr. Vani is based and where I am these days, and where I'm speaking from you these days, is a leader in terms of corporate social responsibility. Especially, here's the reason why I say this: India is one of the three, I believe, countries in the world that require companies to spend a certain portion of their uh, profitability on uh, CSR, corporate social responsibility. Sustainability is something that is becoming more and more popular around the world. It is likely to keep becoming more popular around the world. Companies, corporates, media, governments, people, everyone is riding the sustainability bandwagon. Everyone wants to see more sustainability. If you look at management journals, if you look at finance journals, if you look at business journals, articles about sustainability are being published. Scientific research about sustainability is being published. Sustainability, corporate social responsibility, and the like is being published. And if you look at popular press articles in the newspapers, on TV, you will hear a lot of coverage about sustainability. Universities are offering more and more courses on sustainability. I have been one of the professors who's taught courses on sustainability. I was very impressed when students, undergraduate, graduate students, signed up in the business school to take courses on sustainability, even though all of them knew that that what we were offering was a very early version of the course. At the same time, Sustainability is also facing a lot of challenges, and I would like to take a few minutes to talk to you about some of those challenges. First is, I think when it comes to sustainability, our interest does not match with the knowledge, the scientific knowledge, the popular knowledge, and the practice on the ground. I think we express a lot of interest in sustainability, but we don't know much about sustainability in terms of the science of sustainability. We don't know much about sustainability in terms of what, everyday people know about sustainability. And we do not we our practice of sustainability is very deficient compared to where it should be. I'll illustrate this with an example, or I guess two examples. The one of the biggest challenge I found that people face when they try to teach sustainability, as I did, was the lack of good textbooks on this topic. So in the absence of textbooks, it's very difficult for professors to offer a good engaging course, and it's very difficult for students to be able to take a good engaging course on sustainability. So I think that's one of the problems we need to solve. Hopefully, some of you professors on this call are young and dynamic, and you will do us the favor of introducing a course, introducing textbooks and materials and case studies on sustainability that people can use when they're teaching sustainability. So that's my first example. My second example is that when we taught sustainability, even at our campus, where we thought we were at the forefront of sustainability, we were lacking in an important aspect. We were teaching sustainability, but many of the things that we were teaching, we were not practicing on our own campus. I'll tell you how. It is very hard to teach sustainability without talking about single use plastic bottles, right? Single use plastic bottles are an enemy of a sustainable world. The problem is, when I was teaching in the university in the US, when I was teaching this course, our university had no restrictions on the use of single use plastic bottles. To my knowledge, there are very few universities in the world that restrict the use of single use plastic bottles. I was at University of Toronto in Canada a few years back, and I've been there multiple times since. And in my visits to University of Toronto in Canada, I have learned that single-use plastic bottles are neither sold nor allowed to be used on campus. When my students heard about this in New York, they said we should also implement something like this on campus because they were taking a course in sustainability. They were very interested in it. Unfortunately, there was no will among the other stakeholders to implement something like that. And I think this is a big problem when it comes to sustainability. It's we can talk, but it's hard to walk the talk. I was once at a sustainability conference at a premier business school in India. In the room, we were all talking about sustainability, problems with single use plastic, recycling, and yet every one of the people in the audience had a single use plastic bottle, and almost all of those bottles ended up in the trash later. So when we talk about sustainability, we have to keep in mind that not only is it important for us to talk, but that we should also be able to walk the talk. Even in situations where we seem to be walking the talk, the reality on the ground is very, very far from where it should be. For example, in many cities in the US where I live, they ask us to separate the trash in different categories: the organic trash from the plastic trash. So they ask us to separate the trash. However, I am told, I have learned from credible sources that in most cities, the recycling is very, very, very scarce once they take it from you. In many cases, the organic ends up in the same place as the other trash. The recycling they are not able to do of the recyclable trash. And so on the front end, as the end user, you feel like you are doing the right thing by separating your trash into different categories. But on the back end, they are not equipped to handle that. You have probably also heard about how computers, iPhones, other devices that are rampant around the world today, many of them end up not recycled, but in landfills and trashes in less developed countries. That is not sustainability. Sustainability means we have to think about these products from start to finish, from birth to death of each product. And we have to hold these companies responsible for the products they produce, or we have to figure out processes that can make these products recyclable. I am in India these days. As I've mentioned before, I hear a lot about sustainability even in India. The reality in India for sustainability is even further away than it is in, for example, the US. Not even one city in India, not even one large city in India is world class today in terms of waste disposal. How can we talk about smart cities and sustainability when we cannot even ensure proper waste disposal in our cities? Yes, politicians will talk a big talk. Yes, professors can teach because students are interested in this topic. So professors might teach. Companies tell them they want students who understand the seriousness of these topics. So there's additional pressure on universities to teach. But whether it's universities, whether it's professors, whether it's governments, whether it's students, every one of us will have to think about how we can walk the talk when it comes to sustainability. Somebody asked me, how many points will you give currently to most universities, to most governments, most, not all. Like I said, University of Toronto is doing very well on single-use plastic bottles. How many points will you give universities, government, cities in terms of their ability to walk the talk? And I said, as a professor, I have to say, most will get a failing grade. And I think that's a big problem. So I will stop here. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have that I can answer. I do not consider myself as an expert on sustainability, but as someone who's as interested as anybody else in this topic of sustainability that is very, very important for the world that we live in. Thank you very much. And it's an honor to have been able to talk to you.
Thank you, sir. Dear participant, the session is open to questions if you have any. I guess the lecture was very lucid, so our participants do not have any questions. Thank you, sir, for a well-sustained lecture on sustainability. Your views have indeed added a new insights at looking at the issue of climate change and sustainability. I hope our participants have been as informed about this lecture as I am. I'm also pleased to introduce Professor H.M. Arif, Chairperson IFDP and Head, Department of Languages, to express his acknowledgement for your lecture, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vania, for giving me an opportunity to acknowledge. But it is not all about acknowledgement and appreciation. But indeed, we are very, very indebted to your very informative and very knowledgeable session indeed. And I hope that your insights and your knowledge based on practical wisdom would be very of interesting and very enlightening to the participants. And being the head of the Department of Languages, I heartily thank you, sir, for your giving precious time for the department. Thank you for your for giving me an opportunity. And the mic is over to Dr. Vania for proposing vote of thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Vishal Gupta, for joining us. I would like our participants to know that Sir has joined us despite his very busy schedule and has enlightened us with a brilliant lecture. Thank you, sir. We hope to collaborate with you in future, and we are actually thrilled by your lecture. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Dear participants, our next speaker is an academician, poet, and essayist for women's cause. She has an ingenious take on art, literature, and cultural studies. Dr. Alka Singh is a faculty of English at Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University, Lucknow. Dr. Singh is credited with fair number of books pertinent to Catholics, such as Postmodernism, Gender Role in Postmodern World, Postmodernism, Text and Context, Issues in Canadian Literature, Women Empowerment, Women Issues of Exclusion and Inclusion, and Women Society and Culture. She also has authored Literature and Culture, Sense and Scenes from Pandemic that have contributed significantly to the academic canon of literature with a cause. Ma'am is credited with the English collection of poems, Colors of Blood, and another collection of Hindi poems, Bear Sanchar. Her book, Colors of Blood, is a globally acknowledged work of art and expressions on women's health issues and menstruation, with a special reference to sustainable development. The book was released worldwide in more than 153 nations and circulated amongst global leaders via United Nations Millennial Campus and Global Academic Impact. Ma'am's hundreds of poems in English and Hindi have been anthologized in various creative volumes on crisis emotions, women's rights and spaces, nation spirits, environmental issues, and socio-cultural discourses on human conditions, values, and rights. Ma'am has widely served through literature across the globe. She is celebrated for her poems and editorials in national dailies and covering spaces uplifting national consciousness via national and international forums promoting art and literature. Ma'am is the recipient of 22 awards, honors, recognitions, including recent Mission Shakti State Award 2021 for Government of Uttar Pradesh and Samman Patra for exceptionally contributing to National Education Policy 2020. Ma'am is soon coming up with a new writing enterprise for kids in a collection of poems called Twig. We are extremely delighted to have you with us, ma'am. I'm sure our participant must be eagerly waiting to hear. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Thank you so much. Thank you for so generous in introducing and communicating the participants that how the background researches often help the participants in recepting the understanding of working on environmental issues with special reference to certain ingredients that somehow directly or indirectly speak of your personality, speak of you being contributing significantly in the changes around and for the development of the society and nation. Thank you so much. And since it was very last minute, I was informed regarding this faculty development program, and I have all my wishes to the participant, those who are attending this session, that I was told that this is regarding the sustainable development goals, and since we are aware that all of these goals were adopted by United Nations somewhere around 2015 to meet certain important targets by the end of 2030. And specifically, since the organizer, so they asked me to choose for one goal that we'll be talking for the discourses today, is specifically Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which actually talks about gender equality. So, dear participants, I would be, talking about gender equality with a special reference to women empowerment, and keeping in view the center, the center of understanding fundamentally gender equality as important human rights subject. We all are aware, in fact, that the gender equality is a human right, and the moment you say the human right, it is actually the spaces of dignity, your fundamental rights of enjoying your spaces, having the right to choose and to live with freedom and dignity, and uh, 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 and communicating freely and enjoying your space freely as part of the larger chunk of the society. But what we are witnessing today is that, you see, gender equality being a human right, of course, and keeping all important human rights issues in relation to the gender equality, we are, or in fact the world faces a persistent gap in access to opportunities and decision making power so far as women and men equations are concerned. So if you see the globally, and I'm sure the participants, since you are recepting a text or a textual analysis, when I say text in the common parlance, it means the larger chunk of everything that conditions an individual mind and that help us understand that how everything in and around as part of the textual and content analysis help us to understand that how sustainable development goal and how each and every goal is complementary to each other if we target the develop the society by the end of 2030. So when we say globally, you see, women, when we look at the global scenario, and I'm sure since some time back, you see, when the world has been entire, peoples and society has been facing the devastating crisis situation out of the corona pandemic, we have seen that how some of the important issues in relation to the women were ignored when it come to the healthy, or when it come to health discourses, legal discourses in relation to the to keeping a balance between the mental health and physical health, specifically so far as women and girls are concerned. So what we, if we look on the broader aspect of the sustainable development goal for, that is gender equality, and when we talk about the women of the world, what do the women want is actually in fact, they deserve an equal future free from kind of the, stigma, stereotypical allocation of the work, and the expectations from them, as contributory ingredient on the set patterns of the roles that they have been often defined with, and the violence, and a future that's sustainable, which is peaceful, with equal rights and opportunities for all. So the world needs actually the women at every table where the decisions are being made. So that is how I look on the broader perspective of women and gender equality in relation to the women empowerment, and the greater if the greater guidance would of course comes when we try to implement and bring the applications of the human rights standards. So you see, when we look at the reports from the UNDP and all, I'm sure the participant must have seen that how UN women has been working to provide support to all women on the front lines to fight against the pandemic, promoting flexible working arrangements and prioritizing services to prevent gender based domestic violence. And you see, uh, and this year also, when we were celebrating International Women's Day, the theme was the digital to empower women in the digital world. So if we see that, if we see the you see the these basic human rights perspective, there has been the celebration of the tremendous efforts by women and girls around the world in shaping a more equal future, and their contribution in recovering from COVID-19 pandemic and highlighting the gaps that always remains and is marginalized and is cornered at. So when we talk about the women's full and effective participation and the leadership, in almost all the areas of life that drives progress for everyone, we see that the women are still underrepresented in public life. And therefore I said that women at every table are important in decision making. And if we look at the UN Secretary General's report, we can see that the data and the stats, they show that women are the heads of state and government in 22 countries, and only 24.9%, only 24.9% of national parliamentarians were women. So you can imagine the current rate of progress, and you can see that how and why sustainable development goal number 4 is important so far as gender equality among the heads of the government is important. And if we estimate the spaces and the power of women being strengthened, we can say that it will take almost another 130 years to talk about the kind of the equality we are looking forward to. We've seen that the women were also the forefront in the battle against COVID-19 as frontline and health sector workers, as scientists, as doctors, as caregivers, and yet they get paid 11% less globally than their male counterparts. That's what the data says. So you see, it is also an analysis in one of the COVID-19 task teams reports from the UN, that from 87 countries, and it was found that only 3.5% percent of them had the gender parity. So we can say, we can say that the women have have like fewer opportunities for the economic participation and for the other participations when it comes to health and safety risk. And of course they are less political representation of women around the world. So, guaranteeing the rights of women and giving them opportunities to reach their full potential is very critical and important aspect of Sustainable Development Goals number 4. So, it is actually very important to talk, to attain the global equality for meeting a wide range of international development goals. As I said, that most of these 17 goals, when we talk about, they remain somewhere complementary to each other, and empowered women and girls, can contribute to the development of, or development of everyone. As I said, they contribute to the health and productivity of their families, communities, societies, countries, and therefore, it creates a ripple effect, and therefore it benefits everyone in the society. I mean, the nation is strengthened. That is why I chose SDGs 4 as a specific and important towards the empowerment of not only the girls and women around, but also this strengthens the nation, nation, as the for the purposes of seeing the world as an orderly one. So the word gender, when we say, it, we need to understand that it describe actually the socially constructed roles and the responsibility that the society consider appropriate for men and women. So, gender equality therefore means that men and women have equal power and equal opportunities, specifically for financial independence, because that is one area. The economic discourses are needed to be strengthened when it comes to the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, and therefore education and then personal development is relatively important, and is a critical aspect of achieving gender equality. So, it includes the increasing of women's sense of self-worth, her decision making power, her access to the digital world, her access to opportunities and resources, her power and control over her own life, inside, of course, and outside the home, in setting the right pattern of the structural units of the society, and therefore looking at the aspect of women from her ability to affect the larger chunk of the change that is needed in the society. Therefore, gender issues are not focused on women alone, actually, but on the relationship between men and women in society. So that is one very important aspect, which is needed to be talked about, and which should be given center focus with reference to say political discourses, economic discourses, legal discourses, human rights discourses, and so many other aspects of the socially constructed perception of developed society. So the actions, the attitudes of the men, or the male counterparts, and the boys, that play an important role in achieving gender equality. And of course, as I said, that sustainable development goal, that is goal number 5, which is gender equality, and sustainable development goal, which is goal number 4, which talk about education, are somewhere somewhere connected, well connected with each other, and they are complementary to each other, because education is a key area of focus, and this strengthens our understanding of the sustainable development goal number 5, which is gender equality. So although the world is making progress in achieving, of course, gender parity in education, but then we cannot ignore the fact that girls still make up you know a higher percentage of out of school, out of or school dropouts children than boys. So that is a fact, and that's what the reports says. So approximately, it has been shown in the different reports of the World Bank and the UN reports that one quarter of girls in the developing country do not attend school. So typically, families with limited means who cannot afford costs such as school fees, uniforms, and supplies for all their children will, of course, prioritize education for their sons. And that's what is also responsible for talking about and strengthening the sustainable development goal number 5. So it is seen that the families may rely on girls labor for household chores, carrying water, and childcare. Sorry, leaving limited time for schooling, and then prioritizing girls education provides perhaps the single highest return on investment in the developing world. An educated girl, you see, is more likely to postpone marriages, raise a smaller family, have healthier children, and send her own children to school. So she has more opportunities to earn an income as well and to participate in political processes, and she is likely less to become infected with the you know harmful diseases like HIV and all. So when we talk about women's health and safety, when we talk about legal discourses, when we talk about the economic discourses, it is important that they should be talked in the relatively in terms of gender equality, and this can be related to women having fewer opportunities for health education, unequal power in sexual partnership, or as a result, I would say, gender based violence. Um, when it comes to, for example, maternal health is also an issue of specific concern. Just now, when the organizing team was introducing me, you have heard that I published a collection of poems on on menstruation and menstrual health of women, because that is what I consider is something which is very important and which has been ignored for quite a long time. And in spite of allocation of a decent budget to the health sector, this is one particular area where women's menstrual health, the hygiene and sanitation would have been rather made more flexible, and easy and convenient theme to have been talked about the needs, and the requirements of removing the stereotypical culturally stigmatized and tabooed issues in relation to the menstrual health and environment, because it is a specific concern, and many countries women have limited access to prenatal and infant care, and they are more likely to experience complications because of the menstrual health during pregnancy and childbirth. So this is critical concern, and important when you talk about the gender equality. Then because you see, quality women's health care can provide an important entry point for information and services that empowers a girl, a woman, a mother, and as informed decision makers concerning their own health and health of their children, family, society. Because a healthy family, a healthy society in terms of physical health and mental health can strengthen the society and the nation around. So the area of focus, in attaining gender equality is not only the women's, health discourses, but also economic discourses, legal discourses, as I said, and and the economic and the political empowerment, where the women because we all are aware that they comprise more than 50% of the world population. And then you see that only 1% of the world's wealth throughout the world, women and girls perform long hours of unpaid domestic works. And in some places women still lack the right to own land, right to inherit property, obtain. In some places I'm talking about, because I'm taking a broader perspective all around the world. And like India has achieved like much progress so far as these discourses, or we when we analyze the legal ambience and the legal order that we have in our society, with special reference to women's safety and the women's rights as the human rights discourses in strengthening the sustainable development goal number 5. So you see, throughout the world, we can observe and relate the access to opportunities and income, and the workplace harassment and discrimination, or free from job discrimination and everything. So at all levels, say, including at home and in the public arena, women are widely, still, and still, as I said, that the report, you read the reports of the UNDP, and you'll be convinced to see that they are underpressed as decision makers, especially. So in legislature and around the world, women have, of course, outnumbered 4 to 1, and yet women's political participation is crucial. As I said, I know again that it is crucial for achieving gender equality, and I would also say genuine democratic setups. So recently the World Economic Forum, in its gender gap index, pointed out that women comprising less than 1/5 of the elected members, and the report says that it identifies the political empowerment as the greatest gender equity issue in the countries like United States, and US ranked in fact higher in economic empowerment. For women's earning power remains approximately 20% lower than men's. So globally, if we talk about, then we can say that no country has fully attained gender equality. And if we can go by the country wise data also, but that would take much time, and I was told to limit within 20 to 25 minutes the analysis of the ongoing progress with reference to the sustainable development goal number 5. Like I would be talking about in terms of legal discourses so far as Indian scenario is concerned. You see that here gender equality, I would actually say, requires equity. Equity. So the history of social development, the history of inequality between nations, religions, ethnicity, class, caste, race, sexuality. I mean, the questions of women's rights in all of these area that looms large, cutting through all layers of social stratification. Um, as German a philosopher and social scientist Friedrich Engels, he says that women was the first human being that tasted bondage, and women was a slave before slavery existed. That speak high of the need, or perhaps the reason for the feminist struggle for equal rights that has paved its way to uplift the human right issues through legislation, be it from the corridors of the suffrage movement, or the right to vote, or I would say to employment, property rights, right governing divorce and marriages, to child care and medicine. Legislation based on equal rights affects the very values of society, impacting not just the way we vote, but the way we work, the way we think, the way we live, the way we earn, the way we function as a family, as a society, and as as broader horizon ingredient to access to education, healthcare, and justice system. So, as I said, you see, in India, the Constitution guarantees equality for women is often contradictory to the harsh, sometimes harsh societal reality of the land when it comes to the cultural norms. So that is the cultural discourses again is important when we look from the perspective of the gender equality. You see, the struggle for women's equality began in India in 20th century during the struggle for independence itself. And while a struggle for the nationalism changed the legal landscape of the women's right through the colonial era, the post-colonial era, or I would say the neo-colonial era in India has been marked by sweeping changes such as globalization, liberalization, neoliberal policies, and the leaps and bounds of the technological development. That is why the recent, celebration of International Women they talked about the women's access in the digital world, and this safe environment that should be addressed in order to check out the protection gaps that is created by evolving digital technologies, and then the human rights based domestic laws, protection of women from unlawful or unnecessary surveillance, that is also very important. So this has expanded the scope of discourses, cultural discourses, legal discourses, economic discourses, social discourses, political discourses, talking about women's participation in the public sphere, of course. And you see, more women have than ever are engaged in business enterprises, and in international platform, multinational careers like advertising, fashion, and even have better opportunities because of the free movements of the goods, capitals, ideas, and ideas that question the very nature of laws. So that is why I say that the legal discourses have to be checked in terms of the gender equality for developed socially changes. So it is important to talk about the judicial protection for the women rights, then the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 2017. We can talk about the decriminalizing of adultery. These are some of the discourses that can be looked in the broader perspective, to be seen that how some of the discourses are extremely important to to be given the broader perspective of understanding gender equality in terms of the sustainable development goals. The recently, when the when five judges bench of the Supreme Court in 2018, that struck down the colonial era law, section 497 of the Indian Penal Code, that prescribed a maximum imprisonment of 5 years to men for adultery. So likewise, then there was a second colonial era law struck down by the Supreme Court after it struck down the 157 years old law, which was criminalized gay sex in India. So this is how the broader aspects have been created out of the legal discourses, and asking for the strength in political representation as larger chunk of the units of the society that make up for the democratic setups, and talking about the gender equality, then the we can always refer to the Sabrimala issues, women reservation bills, women's safety, and the sexual violence and sexual harassment cases, sexual harassment at workplaces 2013, and the related amendment to it can be talked about. So subsequently, after 2013, that witnessed the promulgation of the amendments in so many acts, and talking about the posh, talking about POXO, and there have been several changes in law that have been for the welfare, security, and the benefit of women, with the aim to eliminate gender-based discrimination, and one of the fundamentals of the Constitution of India. So there have been several initiatives in some and several directions from the state government, central government, for the practical implementation of the laws that talk about the women's safety, that talk about the discrimination in terms of in terms of gender discrimination and ensuring equality of women. But then it is always as we are saying, to talking about gender equality fundamentally as human rights issues, it is important to see and to protect women from unlawful and like unlawful and system-wide guidance, like United Nations system-wide guidance, so far as human rights, the understanding with relation to gender equality is concerned, is needed. So it is high time that we talk about every discourse that strengthens the women empowerment, because women empowerment is not something which is kept at a place or at an event or at a discourse or a seminar or a conference, but it is a continuous thought process, it is a continuous working process, it is a continuous economic setup, it is a continuous political setup, it is a continuous legal setup that has to be given a wider understanding in terms of gender equality as human rights issues. So here I would end up for the for talking about sustainable development goal number 5 with a special reference to women empowerment. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, you may of course put up.
Thank you, ma'am, for a wonderful session. Dear participant, the session is open to question. You may post if any.
I guess there are no questions.
No, ma'am, we have one question. I'm highlighting it on the screen. Just a second.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the question is, are there any specific programs tailored, designed, and implemented by our government for gender parity and equity?
Yeah. It is such an important awareness that we people, we public, the girls, women need. You see, recently, I won't go very far, but I would just draw your attention to the recent awareness program. You see, the government of Uttar Pradesh came up with golden, discourses like Mission Shakti programs, and you see every college, university, everywhere. We have seen that there were awareness in the in the infrastructural changes, towards the changes and towards the requirement of the girls and the women's safety, and because we have still, you see, 1 out of 3 women is physically and sexually harassed. That's what the UN report says, UNDP report says. And you see the girls and the women being trained, via various programs in schools and colleges. There were immense discussion on the acts like POXO, POSH. There were discourses on, this nutrition, and the government, Her Excellency Governor ordered for the survey on the girls and women for getting data procured so far as anemia is concerned. The anemic girls were provided with the facilities, and then yes, of course, the certain schemes that are especially meant under NEP also, like see, National Education Policy 2020 in the country is talking about strengthening the educational institutions with several perspectives, where girls have been given special focus under the mentorship programs, under the scholarship programs as well.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful session. Now I would like to invite Dr. Alina Nazni to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Vanya, for giving me this opportunity to speak. When you rise in the morning, give thanks for the light, your life, your strength, your food, and the joy of living. If you see no reason for thanks, think about the socialization of human beings. A warm and cherished afternoon to all our celebrated speakers of the day. Thank you, Vanya, for giving me the opportunity to propose vote of thanks to the most eminent academician, poet, essayist, Dr. Alka Singh, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, National Law University, who has illuminated this session with her profound knowledge and has devoted herself to the cause of humanity, especially for women. Ma'am is really so generous and humble that she accepted our invitation at the 11th hour and bestowed us with the knowledge of literature, society, and its association with environmental sustainability. She has discussed on the topic of Sustainable Development Goal 5, Women and Empowerment. Dear ma'am, your lecture has definitely familiarized all of us with a number of worthy and interesting ideas and key concepts of sustainable development and literature. Your scholarly intervention into the sphere of ecofeminism has given us an opportunity to navigate across untouched territory. It is a privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of all those who have worked hard to make this event a success. Dear ma'am, I extend heartfelt gratitude to you on the behalf of the Department of Languages for enchanting, mesmerizing, captivating, and enthralling the participant with worthy insight into the corpus of sustainability of environment and environmental consciousness. I'm also much thankful to Professor Vishal Gupta for joining the session and ignite us with his best ideas. I express unfathomable gratitude to Honorable Chancellor Professor Syed Wasim Akhtar Sir for providing us this platform for achieving academic excellence. My sincere appreciation Appreciation for Pro-Chancellor Dr. Syed Nadeem Akhtar and Vice-Chancellor Professor Javed Musarraf sir for launching the online International Faculty Development Program for the holistic development of the academics. I express my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Aqil Ahmed sir, Director of Human Resource Development Center, for providing a platform for this International Faculty Development Program. I convey deep thanks to the Dr. Hafiz Muhammad Arif Nadwi, Head Department of Languages, for motivating us and guiding us in organizing such brilliant sessions. I need to register appreciation for the meticulous efforts of the conveners, especially of Ms. Vanya, in organizing this wonderful International Faculty Development Program. Finally, I convey special thanks to all the participants who have embellished this event with their valuable participation. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much.